Hey, what is up you guys? My name is Wyatt with Kryptic Pro Scooters, and in today's video, we're gonna be doing a customer's custom build. So this customer ordered a custom Pro Scooter on our website, and today we are going to assemble it for them. So if you guys aren't familiar with Kryptic Pro Scooters, one of the things we specialize in is custom builds. We have a scooter builder on our website. We offer the option for us to assemble it, and we just thought it'd be an awesome idea to film this one today. So I'm gonna give you a little parts breakdown of what this customer chose, and then we'll build it for you. So starting with the deck, this customer chose the Urban Art Butter Deck, the 5.5 by 22, so really solid street deck that he's going with. Looks like he's pairing that up with some Hella Grip, the Hella Yoked grip tape. Really awesome stuff. All right, as far as the compression goes, looks like he's paired it with a nice set of Aztek parts. So he's got the Aztek, the Pandora SES, the Austin Coates signature one, as well as the Aztek headset in Ruby. So splashing a little color in there. I think that's gonna look really awesome. Looks like the Aztek Circa fork, kind of finishing it out, matching the compression together there. And as far as the wheels go, looks like he chose the Aztek Architect wheels in ivory. Moving on to the bar, he went with the Wise Reese Jones signature T-bar in black. So really awesome bar, and that one is the 28 high version, as well as some matching Wise black grips. So that's all 8 components that it takes to build a scooter. So let's go ahead and jump into this thing. Awesome, so I got the deck all mounted up here, and the first thing that we're gonna do is go ahead and grip the scooter. So it's a lot easier to grip a scooter when the brake's off of it and everything else is off it, just because you can get around everywhere pretty easily. So we're gonna pull the brake off, pull the axle off, and pull the deck ends out, and then we'll grip this guy. All right, so because this is the Hella Grip, the Formula G grip tape, it is a little more coarse. So it doesn't quite cut as clean with the razor. So a little trick, what we do is we just take a little piece of grip tape, the scrap that came over when we cut it and trimmed it. And what I literally do is just sand the edges just a little bit. Just enough to soften the edge where it's not gonna wanna peel up. Awesome, so like I said, this deck has that center cutout, which is gonna be kind of fun to trim out. And there's really nothing too much we can do about the graphic on the grip tape on this one. It is gonna kind of cut the sloth off a little bit, but that's just kind of how it goes. But I think it still will look really cool. So we'll just, awesome, so that looks pretty nice and clean. And then the main thing was when I laid it, I wanted to be as symmetrical as possible. Because we have that center deck channel, that'll make it kind of look nicer for sure, just because there was a lot of symmetry going on with this graphic. So anyway, now that the grip tape is done, and I do think it actually turned out pretty cool. I like how it cuts them off and you just see the 2 arms coming across right there. But we're gonna go ahead and finish building this. So I'm going to start with the back of the scooter, assemble the brake, the wheel, and the deck ends, and then we'll move on to the compression. Awesome, so now we are moving on to the compression. The way I like to start the compression is just by checking and seeing how well the headset bearings fit into the deck. Sometimes the tolerances can be a little different on different decks. These ones just went right in and they sit nice and flat. So I just like to check and see that both of the cups, they're sitting nice and flat. That way when we go to install the fork, it's not kind of wedging the bearing cups at all, and they're going in at a nice angle. You can grease your bearing cups, but since these ones are already sealed and they're actually really well greased from the factory, Aztek headsets are really nice. I'm not gonna mess with it today, but I will be greasing my hardware today. So we'll go ahead and do that now. This is the Aztek, the Circa fork. Really wicked fork. I think it's gonna look awesome on this deck, actually. So this fork has an integrated crown race, so that bottom bearing should just sit nice and flat. And I also like to check my heights and tolerances of how these things are tapered and make sure they fit nice and good. Of course, an Aztek fork on an Aztek headset, you know, it is made for it, so it should be just fine. Go ahead and pop in that compression ring. So that looks perfect, that looks perfect. And now I'm going to pop on the top cap. So that looks beautiful. And that'll just hold itself right there. Now what's cool is Aztek includes both a compression bolt and washer in the fork as well as the SES. So actually in this case, our customer is going to have an extra one. So let's see if we're gonna need to stretch this guy. We should not, but yep, that looks perfect. So I'm going to grease this guy really fast and then we will go ahead and assemble him. All right, so we just ran into our first kind of compatibility issue, which isn't too big of a deal, but what's happening right now is the Aztek headset on this butter deck is just rubbing just barely on top of the top cup of the deck. So it's actually pretty common. This happens quite a bit. And that's why most headsets, but not all, include these little paper thin spacers. So these things are really tiny, not even a millimeter thick, not even, probably way less than that actually, like 1/4 of a millimeter. And what these do is just barely lift that top cap off of the deck so it doesn't rub. So I'll show you how we install those. So go ahead and take this SES off, and those little paper thin spacers literally just sit right above the compression ring, and that should just barely give us enough room where it's not gonna rub. And in this case, make sure we are good. That looks perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and grease our compression bolt and go ahead and finish assembling the compression. All right, so I just put a little bit of grease on our compression bolt here. Gonna drop it into the SES. Now everything should go together nice and smooth. I just like to tighten them up about, you know, just barely snug. And just make sure everything feels right before I crank down on them and really compress it and get it where it needs to go. So I'm gonna take just this nice little clean towel here, clean up this really nice SES. Awesome, so the sequence to tightening down an SES goes like this. So the first thing that you're actually gonna do is tighten the compression bolt before you tighten any of these bolts. You want to leave all your clamp bolts loose. So you want to make sure it's tightened down first, and then we can worry about clamping it to the fork. But I am going to put the wheel on next, and this is why. I want to put the wheel on. So I want to put the wheel on next because I want to be able to line up the fork and the clamp, and it's a lot easier to do that when the wheel is on. So let me grab another tool real fast and then I'll take that axle off. I think all of the Aztek components, because they have the red hardware, just match so well. I love when the hardware, you know, matches. I just think that's so awesome. Also, one cool little detail to keep in mind when you're building your scooter, a lot of wheels are only printed on one side. So I like to match whatever side the print is on, front and back. So that way, just when you, you know, have a profile shot of your scooter, it'll look better. I don't know why, it's really strange, I don't know why more wheel manufacturers don't print both sides, but it seems like most of the wheel manufacturers just print the one side. But anyway, that's, I guess, not up to me. awesome. So now that that wheel is on, it's gonna make it just a lot easier to line up the fork and the clamp. So the first thing, we're gonna make sure, yep, these are all loose, and they definitely are. And then I'm actually gonna break the compression loose just a little bit. So I move these, and then I'm just gonna tighten it right back up where it was. And now it is nice and straight. What I do is I just eyeball down the center line of the clamp, and I pretty much try to line it up with the center line of the wheel. You can get like maybe a ruler out and you can kind of be perfect about it, but usually just if you eyeball it, it should be pretty darn close. All right, so kind of going back to that thing about how we tighten up our SESs. So the first thing we're gonna do is, the first thing I like to do, not go too tight, just snug up the bottom one here. That's gonna keep it from moving at all. Just barely snug it up. Don't have to go too tight or anything, because we're gonna slide the bar in next. So, like I said, he's going with the Wise black grips and the Wise Reese Jones T-bar. So we're gonna put those on next. All right, so awesome. I just put those grips on off camera. So that's pretty much everything so far. We just gotta slide the bar in, tighten it all up, and then that will be our custom build today. So of course those slide in just perfectly. Don't even have to stretch the clamp or anything. Oh, this thing came out so awesome. Cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten that up now. And then we'll kind of clean it up, polish it up before it goes out to the customer. Take a few pictures of it and make sure it's dialed. That's like the most important part, right? So what I recommend when you tighten your SES, just kind of going back to that whole thing, the procedure there, I like to tighten them kind of in a alternating pattern. So I will just go about a quarter turn each on each bolt, and I'll alternate kind of like every other one. Go down, and just like a quarter turn each, and that's actually gonna get your scooter much tighter than if you just tried to crank down on each one at one time. That way you're not putting excess stress on any of the threads. Awesome, we're gonna go ahead and polish up the clamp and any of the parts that are silver on here. This looks really awesome. I think it came out great. I think this customer definitely chose a really sick combo of parts on here. So let's go take some pictures of it and make sure it's all dialed.